have a similar conversation with various agents, like in that part of the screening process?
Yes, that's part of the screening process, but once you engage an agent, you'll probably have to sign exclusivity with that agent. And it's probably best just have one person representing you for a project. You may just want to take an agent on for maybe 3 months. This way, if it doesn't work out, you're not bound for too long. You want to give a reasonable amount of time to shop your proposal, and then you could, make a term of your contract for about 3 months, and then you could always renew it, or go with someone else if you feel like, A, this person's not giving the results, or B, you just don't like them anymore. So you should think about setting some kind of term. They will always try to lock you in forever. Don't ever agree to that.
Also, too, the publishing industry has really changed, and a lot of agents are a lot more aggressive now, and publishing houses are closed. Well, bookstores are closed, and, publishing houses are closed because, whatever. But read their blogs. A lot of agents now have blogs, and the one agent that I would recommend is Chip McGregor. He has a blog, Chip McGregor. There's another lady. So anyway, there's a lot of agent blogs. You can kind of tell where their head is in terms of what they're doing and if they're active, if they're actually selling books in, because books are publishing less and less books. So you want to know, okay, they sell it in, will it actually sell through? Will that publishing company stand by and actually help sell your book through? They can sell it, but then they leave you hanging. So really follow them, just like we are taught here, follow folks, on the blog and Twitter, and see where they are and who they're connecting with. And you can usually just, you can interview someone and they can tell you something else, but then Google doesn't lie, right? So, yeah.
And also make sure you know how many clients they have, because some of these people have so many people who they feel like, they're marquee names, and then you get kind of lost in the sauce, and you don't want that. I like people who are less known, have a lot of hustle. And they're hungry to get a deal for themselves and for me. So that's always something to consider in terms of waiting. I think we're over here and then we're back.
I had two quick questions. The first was, do you think that you should have a book proposal ready when you query an agent?
Absolutely.
Okay, so just to have start off, is there recommended like 5 or 4 should you recommend something like that?
Well, there's a lot of great books out there about the proposal, how to write a book proposal. One of the books that I recommend that was given to me first is called Thinking Like Your Editor, or Thinking Like an Editor, and that was really helpful. But there are lots of books about, in terms of templates and things like that for book proposals. And you should have something, because really, if you want someone to sit down with you, you expect to be taken seriously, and if you haven't taken the time to put together 10 pages or 15 pages about your idea, then, why should they meet with you? So you have to make a commitment first to your idea, putting it down on paper, putting it something. They will give you feedback. They will likely, good one will tell you what to add, what to change, if things work, but you need to show up with something.
So it's not necessarily, I'm sorry?
I said that's my suggestion.
Okay. So it's not necessarily that it needs to be like, there needs to be the beginning of, because I've usually heard the first 3 chapters, or, something like that. Is that realistic, or?
For fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
I would say not 3 chapters. Usually, a book proposal will include, your actual pitch. You should always be prepared to do a marketing piece to your book. You've done an overview of every other book that's possibly competitive. And then in that competitive overview, you explain why your book is different and how it's different from the competition. So you have your concept, you have your marketing overview, you have the about you, again, talking about why this person writes this book. That's where you toot your own horn and do it well. And then a sample chapter is usually standard unless they ask you for more. So I would just go with one sample chapter, but pick a chapter. It doesn't have to be the first one, but pick one that you really think either really shows off your writing style, really highlights your characters, really shows your information. One sample chapter, and unless they ask you for more.
And then the last one, now, if you're have like, I guess, a moderate size, especially because you also have writing credits in other places. Like, I guess in other words, does one need to be, is it absolutely that you need to have like a large presence in order to transfer over into the other space, or is it that you can, kind of leverage, like if you're writing for a couple of other really big blogs like an iVillage, or, just, I guess what I was basically trying to ask is how much should you have down in credit and stuff like that if you want to step into the whole right book?
I mean, you really need to have as much as you can. And I wanted to say something to Pam's point because even though now, because the book industry has changed so much, many published authors feel like self-published authors because they're still expected to go out there and market and things like that. And at HarperCollins, you know, I get the publicist, I think maybe 6 weeks. It's that long after you leave, and after that, you know, I'm kind of shuffled to the back burner and left my own devices. And even during that 6 weeks, you know, they had layoffs, so now the publicist has like 8 authors, so they used to have 3. So, you know, it can feel like a self-published experience in terms of your marketing. So really, you need to show in your proposal what muscles you have to harness. So whether that's online and magazines or whatever, any place where you can show that someone may write about you, if you write for a magazine, they may, you know, write a review of your book because your relation with them, anything that you have that you should assume that your writing is to prove that you can market the hell out of your own book, even to a publisher, because that's what they expect to see. So, you know, throw it all in there. All of it matters, but you need to be prepared to make the case that you have the power to market the book and that you have the audience and outlets and resources and connections. If you know people, put them in there. Editors, you know, things like that. If you've been on television, you know, your radio appearances, all of that stuff goes in.
Do you think that it would be, with the idea that you have recommended for targeting, you know, basically giving away a book for, you know, to get exposure and so forth, would that be a smart approach, even if you don't have a book? Would it be a smart approach to write maybe something smaller to kind of, you know, kind of get a feel of what your readership is and what support you would get if you did have a book?
Like an ebook or something like that.
Right, and then, you know, kind of use that as your, I don't know, resume or whatever it may be, your presentation to a publisher. You know what I mean? Like if you do something like that and then you know, it shows that it has a lot of following or people are interested, would that serve as leverage to gain the publisher's interest in working with you?
Well, the main reason why I told her to do it and to give it away was to collect the email addresses, right? And then you can also count the number of downloads, right? And that's going to be of interest. It's not to do it, I mean, to get the publisher's attention because of the content that's not why for her to do that. I told her to do that to make sure that she gets the email addresses to do the try. And then if you do get a lot of downloads, then yeah, that is something that people will say, oh, okay, well, people are interested in that. And that is the main thing. I want to say something to her, too, about the book proposal, because I sat on like a couple of boards where, you know, we review books for movie press, and I sat on the editorial board, and we would get stacks and stacks of manuscript book proposals that we had to look through. And the main thing, weight-wise, what they were looking at, when we did that, wasn't necessarily the content or the first 2 chapters or even the first chapter, even though we're just assuming that the author can write, or at least have enough to evaluate editor, is the marketing proposal. That is over and over again in terms of your marketability, in terms of how many people they can influence, touch, affect, all of that. And so we would go through and we would argue across the table and almost screaming and hollering because someone would say, this is a really good book, and blah, 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 I really love this. And they said, but it won't sell, they don't know anybody, they're just a teacher, and they're just, you know, and they don't have a blog, they don't have a website. And so all of that matters because what it comes down to is it comes down to business. It comes down to whether you're going to sell the book, not the fact that it's a great idea, but what is, because anybody can buy a book one time. If it's not good, you're not going to buy the next one. If Jerry Jones' books were bad, you're not going to buy any more of the books, okay? Maybe you tricked about the person, but after that, it's like, that was a bad book, I'm not buying it again. The main thing is to get people to buy it. Best-selling author, all right, not best-written author. Best writing is selling. All right, so selling is the main thing of the game. And when I say the publishing industry has changed, I have so many friends that have lost jobs and so many agents and things that are really just like trying to figure out what to do next, you know, their network partner, whatever, because it's not the same. And so really the power is in our hands with the social media, with the blog, with building the tribe. Gary Vaynerchuk is a good example, Melinda Emerson, there's so many people, my dad said, and then on Twitter, he wasn't even thinking about writing a book. But he wrote a book called Funny Shit My Dad Said, or something, or a tweet. He tweeted that. And then he became a New York Times bestseller that some agent came after him, saw his numbers on Twitter, and said, hey, we need to sell you into a publisher to get some money, basically. And he did. And he had an audience, and this is crazy. It's crazy because he's no writing credits, you know, all this stuff I'm telling you, but he had a tribe on Twitter.